I want to talk about my man primetime Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, who are back in the headlines this week. You may recall that more than a dozen players left Coach Prime's squad during the spring transfer portal window, including several projected starters. Some of them are now taking shots at the coach and the program on the way out, according to reports. The latest remarks come from safety Xavier Smith, who says he didn't appreciate the way Coach Prime handled roster management. One of Smith's former teammates in the secondary, Cormani McLean, had this to say, quote, look at this, ready to get to a new place and get to work. No hard feelings. Some people just got to take a step back from things sometimes. Certain people. I feel like I just don't want to play for clicks. I actually want to be involved with a great leading program that's going to develop players, end quote. Now, McLean was the top-ranked cornerback in the 2023 class. Deion Sanders and his sons have responded in a series of tweets you see here, and some are not loving the way the Sanders family are handling this situation. You see the tweets right there from Shedeur and Prime Time. Of course, UTEP coach Scotty Walden, who previously coached Xavier Smith, came to his defense in this tweet saying, quote, Smith is the furthest thing from soft. Okay, that's what the coach says. He said, I coached Xavier at AP and now he at UTEP. He is the furthest thing from soft. He's a great kid / player and led us to a conference title. He answered a question honestly in an interview and was just telling his side. He was a freshman AA and has an extremely bright future on and off the field. I am glad he is on my team. Check the tape. Everybody knows that Deion Sanders was like a brother to me. We're pretty tight. We talk frequently, not every week, not every month, but we talk frequently enough throughout the year. I love him dearly. I respect him. And I don't like seeing any player castigate anything that he's associated with. But I need to be fair. And whereas I don't like a player speaking about it, and I certainly don't think that primetime Deion Sanders is playing for clicks, I do think that somebody who does need to be checked just a little bit is Shedeur Sanders. Nobody else is saying it, so I'm going to say it. You see this watch right here? This little Rolex I got on? See that? You know one of the things that I never do with my watch? I never did that. And in my profession, quite frankly, I win a lot. Shedeur Sanders did that each time they won a game. When they were 3-0, he did it. When they beat Colorado State, and that coach was trying to talk smack at Deion and the program, Shedeur Sanders met him at midfield. Shedeur Sanders is miniature in my estimation, but he is a stud. He is a special talent. And even though they were 4-8, and even though they were 1-8 in the conference, and even though they ended the season losing 6 straight, it's not an indictment against Shedeur Sanders because this brother is special. He can play, y'all. He was sacked 52 times, an FBS high 52 times at the quarterback spot. It was so bad in terms of the level of protection he wasn't receiving. Deion Sanders got to a point where even as a coach, he had to remember he was a dad, and I got to protect my son because look at what I'm exposing him to. I mean, good Lord. And still, this brother threw for over 3,000 yards, threw 27 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, over 3,600 yards to be exact, completed about 67, 68% of his passes, if I remember. Shedeur Sanders can ball. I think he has a bright future. I think he's going pro. I think we all know it. I think he's going to be a spectacular young talent in the NFL one day. And I am not questioning his character by any stretch of the imagination. But it's not hard to see that some of this could be brought on himself. At the end of the day, you're 4-8. At the end of the day, you were 1-8 in the conference. At the end of the day, You did get blown out by Oregon on national television after you were 3-0. And you had the coach for Oregon talking about, we ain't playing for clicks. We ain't playing for social media. I don't have the quote in front of me. We're going to play out in the field. That's what he was saying. People were taking shots at primetime Deion Sanders. Let me say this. Deion Sanders can say anything he wants. He was an All-American. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He is a Hall of Famer and universally recognized as the greatest cornerback to have ever played the game of football. This brother was so elite that he shut down half a field. Deion Sanders was so elite that you had offensive coordinators and head coaches and quarterbacks scared to throw in his vicinity. He had to fake and act like somebody could outrun him and leave them open for a second just so somebody could have the courage to throw the ball out there before he came in out of nowhere and grabbed interceptions. Did I even bring him up as a punt returner and a kickoff returner? Deion Sanders was so elite that his name Primetime was so apropos that it was almost blasphemous and sacrilegious to play him in daylight hours. That's how big time Primetime Deion Sanders was. He can say what he wants. These damn players, including his children, is a different matter entirely. It's not that they can't play. I'm sure they can. Shedeur especially. Shiloh ain't no joke either. These brothers can play. And coming to the defense of their father is admirable. And I'm not trying to discourage that. But how you do it matters. And when you do it with bravado and disrespect, as opposed to humility and protection of your father, you force people to look at you, as opposed to looking at you protecting your father. See, when you hear them speak and you listen to them come out and say the kind of things that they say, well, guess what happens? You're thinking about their bravado and whether or not they have the record to back it up, which they don't. Then you're looking at the transfers. You're seeing what's transpiring, and you're wondering why are these people looking to go elsewhere. And I heard Deion originally speak on the transfers and talk about sometimes people are transferring because they're usually reserves. They ain't getting that playing time. And he has a point there. But Deion Sanders is handling it the way it's supposed to be handled. His children, who are young adults, not necessarily so. And I say this respectfully to Shiloh and Shedeur, two ballers who I believe have bright futures, who I wish nothing but the best. You're Deion Sanders' sons. That means you will always have my support because I love your daddy like a brother. But it is important that you understand how you're communicating and how you're coming across. Your dad has earned it, and he doesn't do that. I'm looking at a quote from primetime Deion Sanders, right? And I'm saying to myself, my goodness, this guy is something else. Because I've seen some quotes from him where he's just deferential. Said Lord's Jesus, and then he talks about humility and, just not bringing, not trying to hurt anybody and just smile at the person who hates on you. I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the quote right in front of me. He says because they try to act like they hate you, but they really don't. They're just upset that they're not you. They're not in your position. They're not as blessed or appear to be as blessed as you may appear to be at that particular moment in time. And he has good points there, but he's not denigrating. They're young, Shedeur and Shiloh, I get it. They're protective of their daddy, I get it. But somebody needs to tell them that moving forward, as you communicate in defense of your dad and what he's doing, how you communicate and how you come across matters. Because you represent him and you represent the program. And more so Shedeur than Shiloh. I'm going to remind you again. You did this every time you won. But you lost more than you won. What were you doing when you lost? That's something to remember as you move forward. Because I expect Colorado to be uplifted by primetime Deion Sanders' presence. I don't expect Shedeur Sanders to be there long while it's happening. Chances are you're going to lose more than you win. And when that happens, how do you handle yourself? Today's day and age is far different than when your dad was young. The spotlight is far more magnifying and illuminating. And you can hurt yourself more than you help yourself unintentionally. Just by willing to fight every little battle. Your father is prime time. He doesn't need you to do that. He can handle it. Focus on being the best you could be so you can back up all of this with victories instead of just stats. It'll go a long way, my brother. It'll go a long way.